Hey guys, welcome to the Blue Sky Sanctuary. That's my property where I've been living off grid since 2022 in Baja, Mexico. And today I am joined by my little dog Molly, who you might not have seen in a minute. She used to be in all my videos back in the day. And my new friend Brighton, of almost retired in Mexico. We're both down here living our best lives as best we can. And I thought it'd be great to have him on to share a different perspective, because all you hear on my channel is my experience and my perspective. So today, Brighton is weighing in to share what life is like for him. He's living in a city about an hour north of me in La Paz, on grid, building as well.
Somewhat building. Yeah, I can tell you the whole story. However much you guys want to hear.
Yeah, let's get into it. You can always
fast forward if it's like, oh my God, I don't want to hear about that. So,
right, put it on the old 2-speed.
Yeah, exactly. And we did record another video for my channel, so these will be coming out the same time, so you can watch both of them and hear different things from each of us.
Totally.
So, yeah, what's our story? So our story starts the way many stories start, but like not the way people say you're supposed to do the living in Mexico thing. And I don't know how yours started here, but for us, we were spending the winters in San Diego. We live in Portland, Oregon. We still live there part-time. So we split our time between now La Paz and Portland, Oregon. We live up in Portland, spending a couple months a year down in San Diego, which was the most expensive place in the world to live. And we were like, oh my God, we could never afford to live here, but we love it here. And for my wife's birthday, we went to La Paz because we could get a really cheap, it was like $100 round trip plane ticket out of the Tijuana airport. Tijuana Airport has a door on the US side. So you can actually like walk right through from the US into an airport in Mexico, and then you have the much less expensive fares because they're not international anymore. So so we flew down to La Paz, not having heard of it before. I saw a blog post about it and I was like, oh, this place sounds nice and we can get a cheap flight. So we spent our first night, I think we arrived on a Sunday, and we got to experience the Malecón on a Sunday night, which is family night. And it was just magical. And we were like, wow, we love this place. And my wife called a real estate agent to just show us what houses look like here and kind of like get a free tour.
Right on.
And we bought the first house that he showed us. I was just like, we kind of looked at each other. And I mean, as I said, we were staying in San Diego, where the minimum price of a house near the beach, which is where we were living, was like $1 million. And it was like a shack for $1 million.
Yeah.
And we found this house. This was pre-pandemic, so prices have come up, but it's on the beach. It's a half an acre. The house itself is a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath, and it's a palapa house, so it has a palm thatch roof. It's just gorgeous. Plus a casita. So it's got another kind of like a studio apartment.
Yeah.
And the whole thing cost us about $165,000.
Wow.
So, and
connected
furnished.
And connected to utilities.
Yep, on the utility, on the grid. So we have a septic system too.
Yeah.
But because we're on the beach, so I don't think we could like get to the sewer system. It'd have to go uphill, so it was a little complicated. But yeah, and fully furnished. So everything we needed was inside this house, and we just hit the ground running. And it was just an amazing purchase. But since then, we've been doing a lot of building. Like just the pool had a big crack in it. So $165,000 minus the cost, or plus the cost of like removing the pool and putting in a new one. But still, for what we got was a great deal.
Yeah, just a fraction of the cost of what you would have to spend in the States.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I mean, we are literally on the beach. We're across the Bay of La Paz. So we are in a town called El Centenario. So it's on the road north out of La Paz. So it's about 25 minutes from the center of the Malecón by car. So it's an hour by bus, 25 minutes by car. So it's not bad. But the beauty is we get to look out over the city of La Paz, and the moon rises over the city of La Paz. And when we're shooting this, there was recently like a super moon, and it's just amazing to see it rise over La Paz across the bay, and it's like reflecting off the water. It's really cool.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we had an eclipse last night too on the full moon, hey?
Yeah, that tiny little bit of eclipse.
Yeah, I thought I missed most of it, but that's not the case.
That's all I saw.
Oh, okay, that's all I saw too.
Yep.
Yeah, a friend back in Canada, when I mentioned something about the full moon, he's like, well, it's rare that you catch the full moon. I said, no, here you catch
you
it.
always catch the
You
full
always-
moon.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, we're lucky that way.
Yeah.
And so basically, we kind of came here with similar goals in mind of living our best lives. And
Yep.
but one of us is city mouse, and
Yep.
one of us is kind of country mouse.
I kind of consider myself suburban mouse. I wish I was city mouse, but when we found this house, and my wife really wanted to have land, and she wanted to be on the beach, and like the city of La Paz, like if you're in like the city, there's no such thing as beachfront properties. I want to say there's about 6 of them that have beach in front of them, because for the most part, 2.5 miles of La Paz is the Malecón. So the vast majority is like a public, amenity. So no one has that little private strip.
Yeah.
Out in El Centenario, there's probably just a dozen houses that have beachfront property. And then the rest of them have like a road, and they're kind of like adjacent to the beach. But it really is very unique for La Paz. I mean, here that happens, but actually you're on with the dune, it's a little different, but
Totally.
sometimes getting beachfront property is really hard, and we were really lucky. And so I was like, okay, we can live out here, but it's a small town. Just, we walk to, there's a little grocery store, there's restaurants, there's bars, there's lots of little, hot day stands and all the, all that kind of stuff, tacos. You can get everything you need in our little town.
Perfect.
But La Paz is where the cool kids hang out.
It's quite a city. Isn't it the capital?
Yep, it's the capital of Baja California Sur.
Yeah.
So it's a big city. It's like, I don't know, I'm guessing like 250,000 people or something. So it's a decent sized city for here in Baja California Sur. There's, it's pretty much just desert around here. And then there's this city. But also La Paz, what I like about it is it's a tourist destination for Mexicans. So people from Chilangos from Mexico City, or Tapatios, is it, from Guatemala, or not from Guatemala, from Guadalajara? Tapatios, I think. So everywhere in Mexico has a name for their people. Oaxaqueños, I think. And then, Paceños are from La Paz. So
cute.
Yeah, there's all these names, but the wealthy people from the big Mexican cities come to La Paz to vacation. And so there's a lot of amenities, but they all speak Spanish. So it's not just this like big gringo. It's not like Cabo where it's like everything is built for foreigners. This is built for nationals, but nationals on vacation.
Yes, I actually see that here as well in Todos Santos, that the locals come here to vacation. And when it's a holiday, which we just had Independence Day, there was a lot of people here vacationing. It's a beautiful feeling. Like they come with their families and remind us what a beautiful place we live in. And I was thinking too, as you were mentioning, the cost of your house, while 165 to me sounds high, when you put it in perspective of there's only a dozen beachfront properties, when that really can give you a perspective of, well, probably what you could get in La Paz. You could get a house there easily for $100,000.
That was a couple years ago. You could still get a $100,000 house, but you'd be living in a much more local neighborhood.
Yes.
Probably even a brand new house, but more like your original house, and like sitting one next to another. Because I think that's a good price point for Mexicans, is right around 100,000. Especially in La Paz, there's a lot of government workers, so they can afford that.
Yeah.
But right now, you're looking at houses in La Paz, probably more 250,000 or a little more, kind of, like what you sold, but you sold that for, and that was a more simple house. So
yeah, for sure.
There's still options out there.
Yeah.
But we definitely got a good deal. We bought right before the pandemic, and prices went up a lot during the pandemic.
Yeah. Yeah. I noticed that as well.
Well, everyone figured that they could retire. Like they're like, oh, I like this, I like working from home, so I want to work from home. So they could work from home and they can work from Mexico. Or they were like, oh, I'm done with work. I don't want to go back to the office. I'm going to retire early. And if you move to Mexico, you can retire a lot younger than if you are living, see, I'm almost retired. So I get to take lots of time off and make a YouTube channel.
Right.
But I still do have some clients. So working on that full retirement.
which is work in and of itself, for the record.
That is true. A YouTube channel is not
totally work.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm also in the almost retired basket. I'm not fully retired. I'm working here every day as well on different things, but I'm my own boss and I work when I want to, and that makes all the difference. I've never worked well for
someone else.
Yeah.
Yes, I like to call those unemployable people.
Yes,
You gotta work for yourself because you're unemployable.
That totally is me. Yep. Oh yeah, I just wanted to weigh in that when you were describing what's around your house, people on my channel have been saying in the comments, as far as I look like I'm on Mars, describing the terrain around me, that I'm out in the middle of nowhere, that I'm not in a town, but I am in Todos Santos, and these neighborhoods that are outside of El Centro, which is the center of town, are still considered Todos Santos. And despite all the space I have around me, there is the best grocery store at the end of my street. It has everything, and there's really good restaurants 5 minutes away. And so I think this is one of the beautiful things about the areas we're in, is you can feel complete privacy and be in a completely remote spot, and then go for a 3-minute drive and have the beach or a restaurant or 5 or 10 laundromat, Pilates studio at the end of my street, like an attorney office, and the grocery store and all of it. So it doesn't don't let the looks deceive you that we are.
Yeah, things are a lot closer here. Like when I drove here, I drove from over that way, and so it was a lot of like driving to get here. But yeah, I think you're right. Like the straight shot and takes you into the middle of. It's not quite Las Tunas. Is that Las Tunas? Is that Las Tunas? And that's a great, really up and coming area with all these cool restaurants and bars, and that's like when we would come here. There's like Centro is a little bit touristy, and then there's Las Tunas, which is. I don't know. It's more. It's not like hippie, but it's more alternate. You know, a lot of organic stuff, things like that. Lots of
a lot of Birkenstock wearing people like myself.
We fit in.
Yeah, totally. I do feel like I'm amidst like-minded people, which we basically are, because anyone who's here from another country came for a reason. You don't. It takes a lot of work to get here, right? And you don't just end up here without putting in some blood, sweat, and tears and some big effort. And so that we've all done that. There's like common ground between us right away. Yeah,
and I think there's the difference between like moving to Mexico because Mexico's the place you want to go versus leaving Canada or the United States because you're tired of what those places are starting to represent. And because a lot of people that just come down to escape don't do as well here because they're not like, they don't do well with how slow everything is. One of the jokes I have is, plan on accomplishing one thing per day. So if you've got to change over your electric bill and do something with your bank account, you might, say like, I'm going to get one of these things done today. And then that way, when the first one doesn't work out, you're like, okay, well, the second one's going to work out. But 100%. If I got one thing done, I'm going to celebrate because
100%.
Things move slowly and they don't always work out. And if you're not into that, like if you can't just kind of mesh with that cultural, it doesn't work well for you here. I know a lot of people that have moved back that are just like, I can't slow down that much.
I learned that on my first build. I was in tears and near tears more times than I could count on my first build with the way that things went. And one big lesson I had, because I had one of my best friends coming for Christmas, and it seemed so far off, and I thought there's no way the house won't be done by Christmas, and it wasn't. And he arrived, and we were installing windows ourselves on Christmas Eve, and I was so upset, and I learned so much from that experience. And this house, there was no timeline, which again, I swung the pendulum too far in the other direction in a number of ways, and that was one of them. Was just like, I don't care when it's done, I'll be in my camper and whatever. But you learn to surrender. You absolutely. I'm so much more easygoing. The crew all joke about that too, that I'm in a much better headspace than I was on my first build. They know that. They also joke, the foreman would tell them, don't talk to her or bother her if she's hungry or if she's tired. So we get to know each other, and everyone, I feel like, because family is such a strong dynamic here, we become like family. And we became like family. And in the second build, we would eat breakfast together because they would bring, they don't eat breakfast at home and then come to work. Like they bring
Yeah.
breakfast to work and they all share the tortillas and the beans and eggs, and I started eating with them. And
That's awesome.
yeah, it was really good.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you talked about how December, you've got someone, or you had someone coming in December, because my family is coming to visit. So this is like my mom, who's 80 some years old,
Yeah.
my sister and her husband and her kids who are married, like they're all descending on the house. So we've got projects going on. Like we didn't have any hot water in the showers in the house, only the casita, but that didn't matter to us because we would just I would just go shower in the casita.
Yeah.
Not a problem. But now with this entirely full house and the tile, that's why I'm here right now. So typically I would be back in spending the summer in Oregon, but because they're doing the construction work, I'm like, okay, well, I need to get back to watch over some of the final construction, the tiling. But of course the tile's not ready. So I'm like, okay, is the tile going to be ready before I leave? Are we going to be able to start it to the point where I can show them exactly what I want? Hopefully it won't run into December. So that's the thing.
For you as well.
Yeah, and then we have another project that we're starting. So even though our house was completely constructed, we've had to do repairs to the house because it was sitting vacant for 5 years. There was a caretaker who lived in a camper on the property, so he was there, but the house was just kind of, the concrete was chipping away and it was kind of degrading, and we've had to replace a lot of the plopper roof, and we have that on a schedule now. So we're doing 1/6 of it every year to make its way around, and they're supposed to last 15 years. So we'll go around and then we'll get to wait 7 years, and then we can start that process again.
Yep.
But that way, instead of doing it all at one time, because it's not cheap, it could be $15,000 to replace that roof. We don't want to put a $15,000 roof on and then have the hurricane, the big hurricane, come through the next year and blow off our $15,000 roof. So we're let's do a couple $1,000s and we'll just keep doing it around, and kind of that way we don't have any major investment in one year, because it would be that year would be the year.
Yeah.
So I don't want to risk it, I guess.
That's understandable. And we got off easy this year for hurricanes, so I'd be even more apprehensive about
the next one. Yeah, it's we're pushing our luck now.
Yeah, totally. And people ask us, what do you do down there all day? What do you do with your free time? And this is it, right? You do one thing at a time. It's not the most efficient. You can't depend on any business being open on any given day. You can't depend on them having any supplies
or
that
change.
You need, or change.
Yesterday,
right?
I went to get keys made. I had 4 keys made. It was 140 pesos, which is $7 or something like that. And I gave him a 200 peso. So I needed 60 pesos, which was $3 in change, and he didn't have it. And I was like, okay, so I'm going to go next door to the cafe, but the cafe was closed because, the cafe is closed. And so I went to another cafe, ended up having the best experience. I sat there, the woman, actually, as I ordered, she asked me if I wanted to practice my Spanish. And I was like, okay, yeah, I do want to practice my Spanish. But she's like, because she spoke perfect English or Spanish.
Nice.
And she's like, I will let you choose what language we have here. And so she made my drink and whatnot. I ended up spending 10 or 15 minutes there, and then making my way back to the person who was making the keys.
Yeah.
And actually by that time he had the change, but I had to break some money at the coffee shop to be able to bring back my own change, because this was probably 11 o'clock in the morning. He'd been open for a couple hours, but he still didn't have any change. He didn't have $3 in change. So
this is what we do.
Yeah, this is what we
do.
Yeah, everything takes more time because it's not as simple as just walking in and running a credit card.
Yeah. Yep. And I think it can sound vacation-y when you're up north in the rat race. Oh, you went to the coffee shop, had a coffee with a lady, and you're chatting. But that's also a choice and a state of mind that we have to, I think, actively choose, right? Because I know I get caught up when I'm trying to get stuff done in town and it's not working out. I can get pretty negative and irritated. And then I choose, I actively choose, okay, be grateful for where I am, be grateful that these amenities are even here, and just, you're going to circle back and the water store is going to be open in 10 minutes or whatever the case is. But I think it's easy for people who don't live here to think that it sounds like we're on vacation all the time, when the reality is we might choose to feel that way, but it doesn't always feel that way, right? And it's certainly not just, it doesn't naturally feel that way. We probably choose it
Yeah.
as much as we can.
Yeah, here's another example. I tried to get plates for my car. The first time I went in, they said, yes, I could get the plates. So use this form and go pay for them, because you don't actually typically pay. Like if there's a government office, you don't pay them directly. You pay the government bank, and then you take the receipt back to the government office. So if you need something, you have to go to the bank and to the government office, but usually you have to start at the government office to get the form that you could then take to the bank to pay.
That's right.
So I did that. And then I came back like a few days later, and they were like, okay, no, your car doesn't qualify. I'm like, wait, you told me a couple days ago my car did qualify. And actually I had someone with me to translate and to help through this process. And so they're like, okay, well, we can issue you a refund. And so they wrote up the refund and said it'll take a couple of weeks. Of course, that was right before I went back to the United States. So next time I came down in like July, I took my little piece of paper with the refund to the government bank. I had to go twice because one time I went, it was closed. And the second time it was open, and I waited forever. And then when I got up to the guy, he was like, oh, this isn't the right piece of paper. You have to take that piece of paper back to the license plate place, and they will issue you an official piece of paper that you bring to us. But that is that's your receipt of having started the process. It's not the one that actually gets you the money. And I was like, oh my God. So because it was so much time that I had kind of wasted, it was something where I really had to push myself to be like, you know what, this is just what it is. And you just have to plan for it. And that gets back to that. If you're that type A personality of when things don't go your way, because things don't go your way the majority of the time.
Totally. Totally.
It's just the way it is. If you can just be like, because that's how Mexican people are.
It's true.
It's just like,
it's true.
Something didn't work out. It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It can take you aback at the beginning. I remember my last build and someone's dog passed away, and they were so, like it didn't, like I felt like I was more impacted by this dog dying than they were. And I think I had a lot to learn from them and the way that they handle things, and it's really rubbed off on me in a positive way. But what you're speaking about with insurance, and I've had that experience too. And just to kind of drive that point home for you watching, like if you're in Canada or the States, how do you renew your insurance there? You make a call and it's done in a minute. Or you go online and it's done in a minute. And here it is. You go into the insurance office, you get the paper, you go to the bank and you pay them, and then you go back to the insurance office and you give them the receipt. And those two places, one of them's not going to be open at one of the times, or you're going to be in an hour-long line in the bank for whatever reason. And it's a practice of surrender. And with the holidays too, it's beautiful how much holidays are celebrated here, but you can't expect to get things done in an efficient way because there's always an excuse for a holiday. And there's do you know that term for Mondays? It's like the day of the hangover.
Oh, I don't.
There's a Mexican term for it. I don't know it off the top of my head, but it's like basically you don't go out on a Monday and try to get anything done because it's the day of the hangover where everyone has celebrated the weekend and businesses aren't open, or if they are, you might not get the service you're looking for. And
Sunday is family day. So do not try to conduct business on Sunday, or you will really insult someone. Speaking from experience. It's funny here how we, like if we were to send someone a message, like we expect them to reply on a Monday, we'll be like, okay, well, let me just send this off on Sunday. But they expect, their culture is that they're responsive, but now you're eating into their family time, but they feel this obligation to reply to you. So it's like, I have to like schedule my messages in my inbox to send. I wish I could schedule my WhatsApp messages where it's like, okay, well, I can't talk to that person until tomorrow. Oh, that's a national holiday like there just was. I have to wait. I can't talk to them that day. So it's a lot of just these little things. But how nice is that? That you don't interrupt family day, that you don't have other people doing that to you. So
totally. Cool. I love that I don't try. It's not a try, I do. I don't go out on Sundays and go to stores. I want to support the fact that half of them are closed, and I don't want to bring that influence, that North American influence of like, I want everything 24/7. It's like, no, let's all take Sunday off. I love going outside and feeling that vibe outside. It's here.
Yeah. Actually, one thing I wanted to mention was paying your bills like remotely or paying your bills, having your bills automatically paid for you. So you mentioned you're off grid here. I'm on grid. So CFE is the national utility, and there's no way to have them like automatically deduct your bill from your account because that's just not the way it works here. So we're lucky enough to have an online app that we can use to pay. With my phone, I can go in there and pay from the United States because we're only here half the time, but your bill only comes every other month. And I've forgotten twice to pay the bill on time, and then your electricity gets cut off. And it's not like some computerized system that cuts off your electricity. It's a guy who physically comes out and like puts a tag on your meter, and that's how you know that you've been cut off. And then it takes a while for that guy to come back and turn it back on. So in the US, everything that we have is paid automatically. We don't have to think about bills. We're lucky enough that we have enough money in the bank at any point in time to pay the bills. So the credit card bill, the auto insurance, all those things, it sends us a message saying, hey, we're going to take this money out. It just gets done. Whereas down here, you have to be, the water bill. It's like you definitely have to do that. Or drinking water. You got to have your drinking water. You got to go get your drinking water, and it might not be open on Sunday. So if you want drinking water on Sunday night, make sure you're on top of that on Saturday.
100%, yeah. And the leeway, the time, you get cut off pretty quick from utilities if they're not paid.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we have two bills. Interestingly, one time it cut off one but not the other, because sometimes they're on the same schedule of which month they get paid and sometimes they aren't. So I don't quite understand what's going on. But yeah. And the same thing with water. They'll cut you off if you don't pay your water bill.
Yeah.
But we all have cisterns, so you do have a little leeway with a cistern.
True.
But
Yeah.
We've never had to hire a PIPA to come out and refill our tank because we messed up water.
Good.
But,
good.
Yep.
Well, I think that Brighton and I could probably talk for hours about the things that we love about Mexico and the things that are challenging. I think maybe to like end it on a positive note. Well, I think we're positive all the time anyway, because that's who we are. But is maybe to share like your favorite thing about here so far.
Favorite thing about here, I don't know. It's just I have this different mentality when I'm here. Like I said, I came down just a few days ago, and when I got here, it lifted up my soul. But I think really it has to do with making friends as an adult. So my Spanish is fair to middling, and so I don't have really any friends, any people that I would call friends. I have a lot of acquaintances that are Mexican, but it's not like they would invite me over for a party. And if I was invited over for a party, I did get to go to a quinceañera once, which was awesome, but I was the only non-Spanish speaker there. Not a single person spoke English. It was just me kind of muddling through my Spanish, but it was amazing, but it wasn't the same experience if I was a Spanish speaker.
Sure.
But meeting other gringos is really easy to do this here as an adult. Because back home, you can't walk in, I guess some people will walk into a bar and just start talking to people, but I'm not that person, but down here you can. Yeah. It's just really easy to meet other people because, as you mentioned, everyone has this thing in common, which is they're living internationally. And so they're an interesting person. They probably have a really, interesting life story, and it's easy to meet them. So I think that's probably the best part of it. And just, look how gorgeous it is here. It's just awesome. So, but what about yours? What is your...
Well, it's similar to that. It's similar, the feeling that I have when I'm here. But I think my favorite thing is, well, as I was saying to Brighton earlier, I don't leave my sanctuary unless I absolutely have to. I love my neighbors and my neighborhood. And I'm surrounded pretty much by all locals. It's two gringos, me being one of them, and the lifestyle, what the priorities are here, the easygoingness. As I said, it rubs off on you if you let it. If you want to come down and resist, then you're not even going to last here. But it's easy to list off the things like with the sunshine, the weather, the food, the pace of life. But basically, it's a vibe, and it's this feeling of freedom.
It's the no bad days vibe.
Yes. Yeah. And it's that way because we choose for it to be that way, not because there's no challenges here and things don't go wrong. Like they go wrong actually really frequently because it's not a well-oiled machine. But we've lived in the well-oiled machine, and I didn't love that. I got tired running in it. So here, I love the feeling, and I love the knowing that I can create my days, make my choices of what I want to do on any given day. And Mexico has facilitated that for me, and also, on a last note, welcomed me during the pandemic,
definitely.
at a time where Canada was saying, oh, if you come back, you need to do this, 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 and this. And Mexico was like, hey, you want to stay here? Go ahead.
Yeah.
We're going to give you permission. And that's when I got my temporary residency. And so that little piece right there is like a, what do you call that? Like the microcosm of the macrocosm?
Yeah.
That this feeling of welcoming and warmth and inclusivity and connectivity.
Yeah. And no matter what, like no one's looking down on anyone else.
Yeah.
We don't see the politics here. We don't
Totally.
see anything in terms of people who look different than other people being somehow looked down upon.
Totally.
I know there is some racism, in terms of culturally here, but it's just so different from what exists to the north that it just
Sure.
sexism. There's probably some sexism, but there's a lot of everything is so much more accepted than it is, at least in the United States these days.
Because it's so less important, I think, is the thing, right? Like no one is down here worrying about who wants to call themselves what or what politician said what. It's like we're just kind of grounded here in the earth and the reality of day-to-day living, and not wasting time over those
worrying about that stuff.
Yeah,
it is. It's not like I don't think a conscious choice of people to be as open as they are. It's just the way life is.
Yeah,
it's just like, your neighbor's playing their music loud. That's okay. Enjoy their music.
I do. I love it because it gives me permission to play my music loud when I want to.
Yep.
That's why I love it. And their music is always the typical cliche Mexican music.
Like,
tuba.
And
Totally the tuba. Like at 9 p.m, they start up, and you know that the tuba is going to come out about like midnight. But it's awesome. It's liberating, I think.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like you have this ability to do anything you want, but you also have your neighbors doing anything they want.
Yes.
And so you have to like kind of accept that that freedom. That's the choice. I guess that's the cost of freedom in Mexico way, is that everybody else is doing their own thing, but never really stepping on each other's toes. It's a strange thing.
Yeah, it's a good vibe.
Works.
I don't get any bad vibes from any of my neighbors. When they drive by, they give the wave, and half the time they've got a beer in their hand while they're driving by in their pickup trucks. And it's like, this is just how it is. And so
I think of it as the U.S. back in the 70s.
100%.
Maybe the 80s, where, the kids aren't wearing seatbelts. They're 100%. Coming out, popping their heads out the sunroof. And just like people just behave differently. Some ways good, some ways bad. There's a lot more litter here. But I'm just hoping that Mexico kind of keeps on this track and not switches to the track of the U.S.
Yeah, which is why it's important, I think, when we come down here, we integrate into what's here, and we don't try to bring our North American
baggage.
Ways to this beautiful place. And in closing, also to clarify, Brighton and I are in Baja in Mexico, and that's almost like a little entity in and of itself, right? This isn't all of Mexico. Mexico's massive, and we're just on this delightful little peninsula where we're really blessed to live here.
Yeah, so. I would say the majority of Mexico is like this. One thing to quick address safety, because people do worry about safety. And actually, I have a video coming up on my channel soon. It might actually be up by the time this video gets up, talking about safety with someone who has a moving company. And so he's always out on the road, and his people are out on the road all across Mexico. So he really knows which areas are unsafe and which areas are safe. And there are some areas that are incredibly unsafe, and there is a lot of areas that are incredibly safe.
Yeah.
And they might be, 25 miles from each other. So I think that there really is, here in Baja California Sur is a very safe place. So, and there's a lot of safe places on the mainland, and a lot of places that are this chill type of thing. But Baja's a little extra special with being extra chill. I mean, people drive so slow. People from the mainland like kind of joke about how slow things move here, and Mexico's slow.
Yeah. Speaking of safety, as a single female here, I feel the best thing that's kept me safe is adopting a few street dogs.
Yep.
And they live outside on my property, and we are a happy pack. And that's it. I wouldn't live here without guard dogs.
Yep.
And that's it.
And and there are many of them that need adoption.
Oh yeah, countless.
Yeah.
So,
Dogs are wonderful. Well, thank you so much. Thank you guys for watching too. It's great. And hopefully there'll be a link down to my channel down below.
Absolutely.
So we'll
Almost
connect each
retired
other.
in Mexico. It's such a fun channel, and so much different information, talking to all sorts of different people, as well as Brighton sharing his own experiences. But you will get such a plethora of information just firsthand from a number of people who are living here, like myself and like Brighton. And it's just a fun watch if you're thinking about coming to Mexico. Check them out, or even if you're not, you just want to be entertained by some crazy characters like me and the other people you talk to on that channel.
Yeah, lots of interviews with other people, other foreigners who moved to Mexico and sharing their story.
Gen Mexers.
Gen Mexers, exactly.
Well, thanks for tuning in, guys, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye for now.
Hasta luego.